Amber wanted me to talk a little bit about the different medicines that we used for our different symptoms during our recent bout of COVID. All of these are non-prescription. You can buy all of these at the regular drugstore. Probably the most important symptom, or at least the most dangerous, is fever. And during our particular episode, we also had quite a bit of muscle and joint pain. So these are all medicines for both fever and pain. Acetaminophen is an excellent medication for fever and pain, and it does not cause stomach upset. It does not cause damage to the lining of the stomach. And so we use this quite a bit, but sometimes that was not enough. And so we added ibuprofen. Now, ibuprofen is also an excellent medicine for both fever and pain. However, it can cause some stomach upset. If you use it for a long time, it can even cause potential bleeding problems. But during a week or two of COVID, that's not really going to be a big issue. Now, at least for me, I was using enough ibuprofen that it did start to cause me stomach problems. And so I actually switched from ibuprofen to this medicine called naproxen. And this is, for me, it works a little bit better than ibuprofen for both pain and fever, but also it works for up to 12 hours. So I don't have to be putting so many pills into my stomach. Doesn't cause me as much stomach problems. With this medicine, you start with 2 pills for the first dose, but then you take 1 pill every 12 hours after that, as long as you need it. Never take more than a total of 3 pills in 24 hours. And never start thinking that, oh, I need more, I'll take double the dose or triple the dose. That's too dangerous with this medicine. But I certainly did use both the acetaminophen and the naproxen together, and what I would do is alternate them. Even when I was using the ibuprofen, I would take the acetaminophen, and then 3 hours later take the ibuprofen, 3 hours later the acetaminophen, so that I never had both of my pain and fever medicines wearing off at the same time. Now, the next symptom that I had to deal with a lot, I don't think Amber had quite as much as me, but that's congestion. The feeling that my head and nose are all stuffed up. And for that, I tend to use 2 different types of pills. This one is guaifenesin, and it's good for up to 12 hours. There is an even higher dose available at the store. The brand name for this is most commonly Mucinex, but the store brand is exactly the same medicine, much, much cheaper. And the reason I use 2 different medicines is that this one tends to make people just a little bit sleepy, and so I would usually take this one at night. And this one is called Pseudoephedrine. The most common brand name is Sudafed. But again, I use a store brand because it's cheaper. And this is also the long-acting version, good for up to 12 hours. This tends to make a lot of people, including me, feeling of a little bit jittery. Actually makes it hard to go to sleep. So I take this one during the day, and then I take this one at night. Then the other thing that I used quite a bit to help with my nasal congestion is a nasal spray. Now, this one is called Oxymetazoline, and the most common brand is Afrin, but store brand. Exact same chemical, works just as well. If you use this for even 4, 5, 6 days, you can have difficulty when you try to stop, because your nose becomes so accustomed to this medication that when you stop, you'll get some congestion happening even though you no longer have an illness. And so if I have to use this 4 or 5 days in a row, I just know that I'm going to have to slowly taper off over the next week or so. so that I don't get a recurrence of the congestion just because I stop the medication. Now, the next symptom that we both had to deal with, we both still have a little bit of cough, but during the illness itself, we both had quite a bit of cough. Amber, I think, even more than me. This is a cough medicine. There are lots of common brand names for this medicine. Delsum is one, but there are lots of other medications, cough medications, that contain the active ingredient dextromethorphan. And dextromethorphan is a very good cough suppressant. It can make you just a little bit loopy. If you take too much of it, you can indeed feel intoxicated. This one I bought the 12-hour version. The regular versions only last for 3-4 hours. With the 12-hour version, you do have to make sure that you don't take too much of it. And this is a medication that you should not leave lying around if you have children or even people in your family or guests that have ever had a tendency to use drugs recreationally. Because some people will actually take this and attempt to use it just to get high. But as a cough suppressant, it works quite well. It does make me a little bit drowsy. Some people say it does not, but a lot of people, it makes them a little bit drowsy. So Amber and I would only use this at nighttime. And because it's the nighttime cough that actually affects you in a large way because you can't sleep. During the day, if you cough, it's aggravating, but it doesn't disrupt your sleep. Now, in addition to the actual cough medicine, I always make sure that I have around plenty of simple cough drops that you can buy at any grocery store or drugstore. I tend to buy the sugar-free. Version just because there's no reason to have the extra sugar in terms of calories, and there's no reason to have my teeth bathed in sugar all day long and causing cavities. But that's just me. There are lots of different flavors. Again, I buy the store brand, but there are lots of name brands, Halls and Ricola, and lots of other brands that are very good. All this does is provide a soothing flavor for your throat, but that really does help a sore throat and cough. It may not reduce the overall symptom, but it doesn't feel as aggravating. So I always keep these around. I actually make sure I have some of these with me at work at all times, because if I develop a little bit of cough, as a psychiatrist, it makes it very hard to talk and have a good session with patient if I'm coughing. Now, the last symptom I want to talk about is a runny nose. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, but if you're having to use Kleenex to wipe your nose or blow your nose all day long, your nose itself can become irritated on the outside from the tissues. And more importantly, there's a certain amount of drip that's going on at the back of your throat and causing sore throat, coughing, rough voice, etc. And so I don't always have to use these during a respiratory infection, during a cold, but during this bout of COVID, I certainly did, and so did Amber. Now, this allergy medicine is Diphenhydramine, and the most common brand name for this is Benadryl, but there are other brands as well. Strangely, they almost always produce them in a pink tablet or pink capsule or pink and white capsule. I think that's just marketing, but it does tend to happen. This is very good for helping to dry up your nose and keep it from draining either out the front or down the back of your throat. However, this medicine can make you quite sleepy. So unless I'm planning on taking a nap or something during the day, I don't usually use this during the day, but it certainly will work. This time we both had enough problems with runny nose that we also took another allergy medicine called cetrizine. Now this one you only take once every 24 hours. So cetrizine is a perfectly good non-drowsy antihistamine. There are brand names. The other very common non-drowsy antihistamine is called fexofenadine, or Allegra is the brand name for that one. They're both just fine. If one works better for you, that's great. However, these non-drowsy medications for drying up a runny nose do not tend to work for most people, as well as the diphenhydramine. But at least this, you don't have to worry that it's going to make you too drowsy to be able to drive, that you'll be acting as if you're intoxicated, because on this medicine, you can absolutely end up with a traffic ticket for driving while intoxicated on this medicine. This one, very, very, very unlikely. There were times during this episode where we had to use both.